I'm Ian Russell from Codeway. We're Codeway up there. It says identify, track and control. If you look here, this is a pallet distribution warehouse. It's a 24-hour, you send a pallet to you and it goes through here. And that really summarizes what we do. We will identify the products in the boxes, the pallets with labels. We'll scan the products into the boxes so we know which product is in which box. We've put a unique number on each of those products so you know specifically which item is in which box with its unique number, and the pallet itself will have a unique number. Now this morning you had Peter, I think it was, from the UKWA saying that linear processes are no longer the order of the game, and now we're into circular processes or complex processes, but they all break down into moving something from A to B and B to C and C to D. So what we do is we provide systems which enable you to identify what you've got and then move them from A to B to C to D. And we supply the handheld computers that people use to collect the pallets, to transfer the pallets in the distribution centre, and then when they're delivered, we provide EPOD, signatures, take a photograph, and various other things like doing the vehicle checks on that handheld unit. So we're involved with manufacturing, distribution, and to a certain degree the service side of the industry. And that really is the main point I want to make today. That's what we do. Now, we've brought a couple of gizmos along today, and we'll find out which one comes up first, because I can't remember what came up in the presentation. So, oh, it's here, is it? Do I have to do that? It doesn't work. Page down, page up. Well, I thought that was what I was doing. Oh, this one. There we go. Right, the first gizmo we've brought along is a colour printer made by Epson. They've subsidised us today. It's a brilliant piece of kit. It prints at 12 inches a second, and lo and behold, if you don't put too much ink down, it will, in other words, if you don't want to reproduce a Rembrandt or something on your label, you can produce nowadays a label with colour on it where you need colour to emphasise it. You can produce very high resolution print, which looks awful on the screen but looks very good on the label. We've got some in there if you want to come and see them. And so colour is a technology which is coming, which has benefits, and there's our unique number in that data matrix code on there. Now the first person that came along to see us today said, well, how the hell do you design that label? And the answer is that you have some software. We use something called Nice Label, and that enables you to design a label, print a label, link it up to your computer systems and your databases, and in fact will enable you to control a complete global identification system. So you could design labels, have items produced in China, and they can print labels from your system. That is a blood bag label, because it happened to be the one I came across. And you've got the opportunity there, which I think will probably be on the next slide. The Nice Label system automatically enables you to lay out a form so that you can type in the patient's name and so on for either receiving blood or giving blood. And there's an example of the label that you're going to get on the right. And one of the reasons I left it there was that it seems to me that a blood label could do with a bit of colour on it. So there you are. Look at your black and white labels and think about colour. Right, what we're billed to be talking about this afternoon is Honeywell's new AutoCube system. You probably know that, probably better than me, that FedEx and UPS moved over to a weight dimensional pricing system a year or so ago. So Honeywell are responding to the demand to measure the size of boxes and items that are going through the system. And the AutoCube is their first foray into that business, and they've chosen the technology correctly so it'll be reliable and so on and so forth. So I'm not actually going to demonstrate it directly because, wait a minute. Well, what you've got is on the right, you've got an infrared transmitter which transmits a beam down onto the object, so it's transmitting it down onto there. And you've got a receiver on the right, on the left, together with the camera. So what the thing will do, I'm going to have to go backwards here, that's what it does. It will measure the size of the box, it will give you the volume of the box, and it stores a photo record of that box so that you know what's come in or what's gone out, which you can use for sort of security purposes. If any question, you can come back to that. There was a suggestion today, actually, you might use it to check that it was the sort of item that you were expecting. So we're now looking to matching up that image against the image of a product to make sure that it's the right one. But in that case, we're not talking about something in a box, we'd be talking about an automotive part or something of that sort. And that really is, in a sense, all there is to it. But what we have to do, if I go backwards, is that that's not much use on its own unless it's part of a system. So a system could be a simple station where you put the box on the station there, or more likely it's going to be built into a conveyor system, maybe with a weigh scale. So with this particular unit, which is a static unit, what would happen is that the box would come down from the left to the central point where it would stop on the weigh scale. The dimensioning unit would measure it, the weight would be recorded at the same time. If everything was right, you also have a barcode on the top there which gets scanned, and there was a record sent, in this case, by the manufacturer of the product, which says in that box there are the following items. So you've got a weight check, you've got a dimensions check, and if those are passed, then it will go down to the right where it gets labelled. You can see that yellow label on the right, which is actually a routing label to the customer. So you've got those extrusions going up, twin extrusions, and up there is the sensor, and that is where that would sit to do the dimensioning aspect. So what Codeway does is to provide that system. Now, is there anything else you need to know about that? This is the final bit of boring stuff this afternoon, but you might be interested in that. I mentioned the dimensional weight-based pricing. For those of you interested in marketing information, what the VDC, who's a market research company, found out at the end of last year when they looked at where it is being used, they found that manufacturing was actually the largest sector. If you split logistics and retail, which is really e-commerce, they're both 23%. So that actually, if you combine them, is the largest centre. And what they were surprised to find was that the most common use for this type of technology is to measure the size of items coming into a warehouse, and people were using it for space optimization. So if you've got small boxes coming in, you can find a place to put them, as opposed to larger boxes which would go into its own area. And if you've got no control of that, of course, you're going to have, I don't know, 50, 75% utilisation figures where you can get closer to 100%. So I think that is basically it. Are there any questions? Are you using, sorry?
How much is would this sort of technology cost?
Yeah, I'm asked how much the technology would cost. the answer to that, I think, depends to a certain degree on precisely what you want to do, and whether you want scanning and whether you want weighing and so on and so forth. But our best estimate is that if you're installing a system, it will cost you about, for a static type of system, it will be up to about £10,000. So £5,000 to £10,000 would be the ballpark for that. If you're looking for a system which will work on the fly, then you're probably in the 10 to the 20,000 bracket, depending on whether you need 1 or 2 dimensioning units. Thank you very much.